Welcome back to the channel, guys. Kerrod here. Today we're going to be talking about pressure shifts, how increasing the amount of pressure that you shift between your right foot and your left foot throughout the golf swing can give you longer, straighter shots. Let's get into it. Now, golf is an athletic, dynamic movement, and not only do we need to move our body in such a way to create power and consistency, we also need to shift our pressure. Our pressure typically being the weight between our feet or how much we're applying that force down into the ground. Now, generally what we see, players who do not create much pressure shift, well, they do not create much speed. So it's incredibly important that we understand this concept so you can generate as much power as you possibly can. So what is a pressure shift? Well, all things being equal, for simplicity's sakes, let's say in the address position, I've got a slight amount of weight more forward on my lead foot than my back foot. Let's say 60%, 40%. A pressure shift would be that as I was making my backswing, I began to shift some pressure or some force or some weight down into my trail foot as I was moving the golf club back. This would be the same sensation as if you were playing any other sport and you were trying to move in a rotation fashion, in a backwards movement before then propelling forward. Say it if you were throwing a ball or playing tennis or something similar. So in the golf swing, it's no different. If I start with a little bit more pressure to my front foot, as I begin to take this golf club back, I want to start shifting my pressure into my trail heel very early, actually even before I start to take that golf club away. So from the address position here, I'm going to push that pressure down into my trail heel. That's going to free up my body to rotate all the way to the top of the swing before I then start shifting my pressure back down towards my front foot. Now, if we look at players on the PGA Tour who do this incredibly effectively, well, you've got someone pound for pound who hits it further than most, which is Rory Mcilroy. Now, what do you notice about Rory's swing? Well, in Rory's swing, from a centered position, he would tend to extend or grow in his backswing, so his body would tend to lift up slightly. And effectively, as he does that, he is shifting his pressure into his trail foot and extending his spine. But then in the transition, one of the trademarks of Rory's swing is this big movement down into the golf ball. So he has this huge sort of head dip. Now, typically recreational golfers would see that as an inconsistent move that most players are trying to get out of. They're trying to keep their head really still throughout that swing because logically it makes sense. If we don't change our height, it's going to be easier to hit the golf ball. However, when doing so, you're going to sacrifice considerable potential to create speed, and we certainly don't want to do that. So, for example, Rory would swing to the top, staying centered, extending his spine, then that movement down into the ground, there's a significant pressure shift down into his lead foot in which his body would compress. Now, when you're doing that, you're applying a lot of pressure into the ground, and as you go down, the ground will then push back. And that's where you see players extend through the golf ball, reaching their maximum potential speed. And that is how you're going to hit the golf ball a long way, not by keeping very still and just swinging your arms. So how do we look to improve these pressure shifts, and what do we need to do to encourage ourselves to be able to move a little bit more dynamically, a little bit more athletically, and create some more speed? Well, I got a great drill for you. So starting off in the address position, I got this red stick down the line just as a reference for where our pressure is going to be. So at the beginning of my setup, if I have a little bit more pressure left, effectively what happens is as we take the golf club back, I want to be shifting my pressure into my trail side. So what can we do to encourage this? Well, quite simply put, there's some step drills that we can work on that is going to encourage our body to do so. So from the address position, if I was wanting to be able to shift my pressure into my trail heel, well, what I could do is I could place my right foot next to my left foot. So I'm going to place both feet on this side of the stick. And then as I was about to bring this golf club back, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the golf club a little bit forward. As I'm about to pull this golf club back, I'm actually going to step back with my trail heel. So I'm taking my right foot, starting forward, I'm going to step back, and that frees my body up to make a big turn to the top. Now, as I do it, it's going to shift a significant amount of pressure into that trail heel. That's really going to store up some energy for then you to release back down to the ball. So let's see that at real speed. So normal setup, a little bit of weight left, take my right foot, put it next to my left foot, bring the golf club forward a little bit. As I swing back, I'm going to step back. I really feel a significant amount of pressure being applied down into that trail foot. So what do we do then from the downswing? Well, pretty much the same thing, but the opposite. From the address position, I'm going to put my left foot next to my right foot. I'm going to swing back, and then before I even get to the top of my swing, so when my lead arm is going past parallel, well, that's when I'm going to step forward and change direction. So it's going to look like this. And when I get that stepping motion, or I get that left foot sort of compressing down into the ground, you'll see that as I do that, my body is compressing, it's getting a little bit lower, I'm applying a little bit more pressure. That's going to help my body get into a position where I can really start to create some more power and speed and get that divot, get that golf club working down into the ground. So how do we combine these two together? Well, quite simply put, we don't need such an exaggeration of the stepping motion. We can simply just lift our feet to encourage this. So starting from the address position, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my club just in front. And the reason we do this is just to give ourselves a little bit of time and momentum to be able to start that backswing. So from address, let's place the club in front. I'm going to move the foot a little bit in. I'm going to step back, swing forward, step through. So when I do those stepping motions, I can really feel my pressure beginning to shift. Now, it does take a little bit of sequence and a little bit of timing to get used to this, but the more you do it, you'll find that your body will kind of get into a natural flow where it starts to create these movements a lot more naturally. Sure, it might feel like you're sort of rubbing your belly and patting your head at the beginning, but the more you do it, the easier it's going to get. So from the address position, I'm going to have a little bit of my right foot a little bit closer than where it normally would be. I'm going to bring the golf club forward, I'm going to step back, step forward, and swing through. And you'll really start to see a flow and feel a flow to the motion in which you're creating. Let's do it again. Club starts forward, step back, step forward, and swing through. So just breaking it down for you once more, we want to start with the club a little bit forward, your right foot a little bit in. As you begin to swing back, I want your right foot to slightly shift further away. As you begin to then bring the arms further and further back as you turn, by the time that your lead arm is parallel, I want you to then lift your left foot and replant it. And when you do so, it'll give you this sort of lagging flow motion look, and you'll start to feel a lot more whip and speed down the bottom. So a really good drill to practice. I love this one because you don't need to be down the golf course to do it. You can, however, hit golf balls as you do this. It's going to give you a great sensation of how to correctly shift your pressure throughout the golf swing and bring you some more power. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Please like and subscribe, comment below if you've got any questions. But until next time, I'm Kerrod Gray. Thanks for watching.